type of leases for lessees, for lessors. It can be three things: right of use asset, what we have been discussing. Right of use is what? That represents lessee's right to use an underlying asset for a period of time. So this is recognized. When we see right of use assets, there is also one lease liability. That is, as per 116, this standard will tell me how to record right of use assets and also the corresponding liability. Now there are two things, that is recognition exemption. Two things. One is short-term lease. If a lease is for 12 months or less, this can be taken as just a service arrangement. I don't need to record right of use assets. What I pay is just my expense. So when the lease term is 12 months or less, it's a short-term lease, I can record ROU assets, and if I avail of this exemption, I don't need to record. What I pay is my expenses. In the same way, underlying asset is a low value. Low value means low value when it is new. A car may have very low value. A 30-year-old car may have very low value, but here it is low value when the asset is new. So treatment for these two are, you can have exemption of recognition. You may or may not recognize. Here you will have to recognize. But for these two, if you do not recognize, up to you. For the lessee, you can show as what? Expense. Here you will have to classify, elections to be made by class of these assets. And this value is low. This is what? They are very large in numbers but low in value. I have taken on lease 50 tablets. They are large in number but low in value. And lessor having only two things: finance lease and operating lease. First of all, the main distinction is, if the lessor transfers substantially all the risks and rewards of ownership incidental to the asset, that is called finance lease. If it is not, it is not a finance lease. I repeat, when the lessor transfers substantially all the risks and rewards of ownership to the lessee, it's a finance lease. If he does not transfer those, it's an operating lease. Now, what are the risks that can be transferred? First risk could be what? Idle capacity. There is some idle time, there is no demand, some idle capacity is my risk. I am not. An asset has to be used in the production of goods and services that will generate revenue. Money will come. Outflow will be less than my inflow. Inflow will be from there. So if there is some capacity that is idle, machine is not used. How the lessee makes use of the ROU asset, lessor has nothing to do. He has to get regularly the lease payments. Second thing could be what? Second thing is called obsolescence. Obsolescence can be technological, it can be economic. What is technological obsolescence? It is technically obsolete. To type out a letter, I cannot make use of a typewriter. Nobody will accept nowadays. I need a computer. One typewriter today is technically obsolete. What is economic obsolescence? That I use one asset, but not in a profitable way. I can run a petrol taxi, but I can't justify my profit. Third thing is what? Variation in return. I don't get that much of return what I expected because there is some change in economic scenario, economic conditions. There is not that demand what I expected at the price I'll be able to sell. So three things: one is idle capacity, obsolescence, technological, economic, and there can be variation in return due to economic conditions. Rewards. First thing is expected return. From profitable operations. I told you that an asset is to be used in the production of goods and services. So, I am committed to pay lease liability, so I expect that one asset I get that will provide me expected future economic benefits. So, expected return from profitable operation, first thing. Second thing is what? Residual value. A value at the end of the lease term. So I expect to get some value from this realization of that asset at the end of the lease term. That is called residual value. And number three is what? Gain from appreciation in value. Gain from appreciation in value. So there are three things: expected return from profitable operations, residual value, I expect to realize some amount when the asset is discarded at the end of the lease term, and thirdly, there may be some gain in appreciation in value, some holding gain. I taken something on lease, one land for 20 years. There is some holding gain, appreciation in value. So risk and returns are the main thing. When these are transferred, it is finance lease. Not transferred, it is operating lease.